How to overcome temptation. What is temptation? Well, it's fixating your attention onto a desire that is outside of God's will. And I think Tony Robbins gives a great example of this. And he talks about when he was getting instructed on how to race. The instructor told him, you want to keep your attention when you're going into the turns on where you want to go and not onto the wall. Because if you fixate your attention onto the wall, you're most likely going to drift towards the wall. So when you're taking these turns, you want to be fixated on where you want to put the car. And in our life, we want to be fixated on Jesus, where we want to go in our life, and not have the fear of the wall or the fear of sin in our peripheral, and then fixating our attention to that, because then we are most likely going to drift towards the so-called wall. Paul writes to take every thought captive, and sometimes we have these thoughts that fixate our attention onto the temptation, and when this happens, we are most likely going to drift into that temptation, because that's where we are placing our attention. But when we take that thought captive, we are taking our attention away from the temptation and putting it back on Jesus, because we are giving him that temptation. So now we are back to being fixated on Jesus. A biblical example of this is when Peter walks on the water and he has his eyes fixated on Jesus and he's taking steps on the water towards Jesus. But it is when he takes his eyes off of Jesus is when he starts to drown, is when he starts to give in to the chaos that is going on around him. And the exact same thing happens in our life. So keep your eyes fixated on Jesus, and you will ultimately get to the goal of following Jesus and not giving in to that temptation. But I hope you guys enjoyed today and have a great rest of your day.